So we'll ask the driver, after the lunch you will take the bus and go 20 kilometers to a spot where there is good reception. Stay there for 1 hour, finish all the internet work and come back.
It is a nice suggestion.
Yeah, that has to be.
But what is
See, we cannot stay in Yargate like this.
So many replies we might have to, make.
The hotel which where you are staying, if you go by the same road on the left hand side, maybe after 15 kilometers you will take it.
Yeah, that's why the 20 kilometers is the range which they have given this district. So just go outside that. Sir, what suggestion is that, see, if we can get the bus to go outside 20 kilometers, we can get the internet and maybe spend 1 hour there, finish 1 hour work and then come back in the same bus. Because see, otherwise 2 days no internet, there are so many approvals, so many emails from the reply.
तो उनसे जमीन में ऐसा कह दीजिएगा ये 2 बजे के बाद वही ड्राइवर जो है उससे फिक्स कर दीजिए. Please feel free to do whatever we look, whatever we can do. Fine.
Just outside 20 kilometers you have internet. Just outside the district you can go.
Please do try. I wish you the best. Okay. I know it is a state government decision. There are so many towns affected by it, but there is no harm in trying. Give it a try. Give it a try.
In the nearby districts, it will be around 40 kilometers. From here, 40, 50. From here, Hathras is 30 kilometers. 30. Good idea. So Hathras district.
फोन करके पूछ लिए हाथरस से किसी से मोबाइल इंटरनेट आ रहा है. The best option is we will find out from somebody in Hathras whether internet is working.
That is very good.
Yes. Instead of wasting your time and energy.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, dear colleagues, good morning to each one of you. I hope you stay in the hotel comfortable. And let me assure you also the law and order situation here. By last evening, 95% of the students have left, so there is peace and tranquility on the campus. You might not have met one of your colleagues, Professor Asmadi. Her name is there.
Yes.
She happens to be the provost of one of the halls of residence, and 2,000 girls students, and with girls more responsibility, parents. So we have given her a special leave. I think by tomorrow she would be with you. This is one thing. And about internet, of course it is something beyond our control, but we will find out from Hathras if it is so. The bus will take next.
Yesterday my brother went to Hardwaganj just to file an application.
Right.
So he got back there.
Just a minute. Professor Izhar Faruqi Sahab, he is the coordinator, he is in charge. He is an engineering person, he can get internet from anywhere. I don't mind Hardwaganj or Hathras, this is a matter of details. The main thing is connection. Okay? आप किसी से बात कर लें, बता दें जमीन में हमारे ड्राइवर को वो बस वहाँ लेते जाएंगे. हरदोगंज हो, कासिमपुर हो, कोई भी जगह हो. That is, as I said, that is
yesterday my nephew filed an application for PhD in MIT, so he had to go to Hardwaganj and give all.
So please confirm if it is if.
Yesterday he is ready. Yesterday net was available.
Please take it for today. For today also.
For today, I don't have any person in Hardwaganj. वो तो अपनी कार से गए जहाँ तक उनको नेट मिल गया कार होगी उन्होंने अभी दुकान में शुरू
ऐसा करेंगे ना
बोलो बहुत अच्छी है कार से गए यहाँ
we will send somebody to Hardwaganj and first verify if it is working there, then the bus will take you. Another is some of you have to go to Delhi, Agra, whatever. So our office staff, Mr. Zia, is here. Whatever your requirements are here, please give it in writing to him and give your mobile number so that he can coordinate. He will let you have the name of the coordinator. my request to you is please cooperate with us in the morning, be here at 9, isn't it? The bus is there the bus reaches there at 8:30. So please cooperate with us, otherwise the whole cycle gets affected. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Please go ahead, and on your behalf, let me thank our very senior colleague and esteemed resource person, Prof. Muzammil Saab, again in inclement weather. He came all the way from Lucknow, and he has such love and affection for academic pursuits. Thank you very much. Okay, please.
And I've put the daily report chart at the back. One of you can be the rapporteur for the sessions delivered by Prof. and write your comments. And everyone should participate, like one day, one resource person.
So these will be anonymous or with the...
No, they won't be. You want it to be okay, let's make it but then we need to know who has contributed and who hasn't. So we can't have it anonymous. We will give you another opportunity for giving us anonymous feedback at the end of this. There's another performer that you need. So for today, Professor Jaswant, how about you? No problem. All right, thank you.
So I would also come to know it. What should I do with the name?
Thank you very much. Is a peer assessment or peer evaluation or peer review?
In corporate sector, it's called 360-degree feedback evaluation.
Yes. So thank you very much for joining again after tea break, and I'm very happy to be with you for this session. We had been talking about the quality in teaching and research, and the assessment and the accreditation of the institution. Now is the time to talk about how good quality research can be financed, can be arranged, and how financing can be arranged for good quality research. Because in research is an expensive activity and gradually becoming expensive activity. Previously, when it was conducted at a smaller scale, individual teachers used to conduct researches. And now research is being launched as a big project. And many of the researches are also sponsored researches by big organizations. So now is the time perhaps to talk about the resource mobilization for good quality research, and also how different organizations at the national level, at the international level, they are helping in funding research and capacity building for research. Before I go to analyze those resource mobilizations for research and capacity building for research, a few words about research itself. One thing is that we used to say, and we were also told by our teachers, that whenever you are selecting a topic for research, always select a topic which motivates you to read further in that area, and which makes you further interested to read that area. Never select a topic for research which bores you, which detaches you from reading further that area. So that is very important thing. And we should get that assurance from ourselves, from our student, if we are supervising that research, that the research which is being taken up by us, by our team, if you are the principal investigator, by a few others with you, then we have to ensure that we should embark upon that research which gradually motivates us further to read that, which makes us happier to read that. Unless we ensure that research is a very terse thing, is very uninteresting thing. You may come out with result, but you may not be very happy to come out with result. So that is very important thing. Now, when you say that research is something which should interest you, then that research will be a research of enjoyment, satisfaction, academic enrichment. And that is why we say that research in the first place is a consumption item. is a consumption item because it enthralls you, it makes you happy, it makes you satisfied, it makes you as if you are fulfilled, as if you have consumed something very good which has made you feel better. For instance, just as you have tea or coffee or milk in the morning and you feel better, reading a bit about your research, if you feel better reading a bit about your research, so that makes your research a consumption aspect. You enjoy your research. And we should get that assurance from ourselves. We should also get that assurance from our co-researchers, from students as well. The second thing is that the researches which we are taking up is having three types of values. One, it will benefit the researcher. Nowadays, the CV or the biodata of the teacher is comprised of the research publications also, along with other contributions of the teacher, also the research work, the research publication. So it is in the personal interest. To the extent it is in the personal interest of the researcher or the teacher, it is a private investment. The effort that we make to carry out research makes it a private investment. That is putting effort and money and labor and intellectual pursuit to have something which benefits us in the form of strengthening our own CV, our own data, our own index of academic achievement. Secondly, it is a social investment. It is a national investment. The researches that we carry in our personal capacity or as a team, whether it is financed by international bodies or it is financed by national bodies, national organizations, it is also a social investment. The benefits that will be flowing out of the outcome of the research, from the results of the research, will be benefiting the whole society. And many of the researchers, they have benefited in a big manner and they have helped the government to draw out policies accordingly. So researchers and the project reports, they are not only helping the individual teacher, individual researcher in the personal capacity of the researcher and the teacher, they are also helping the society. Thirdly, the research is also in the interest of the national interest and international interest. Many of the researches which are carried out elsewhere in the world by other universities in foreign countries, all countries of the world get benefit, stand to gain from those researches. Once the result of that research goes into public domain, every individual, every country, every society stands to gain from that, and that is, we say, that the researchers, they have the national value and it is national investment. And that is why the national bodies, national governments, international bodies, they deem it as their duty, they deem it as their priority to fund researches. Because researches are not only going to benefit the individual researcher or to the local society or the local university, the benefits flowing from those researches, flowing from the results of those researches will benefit the society at large, the international community. People of all countries of the world will be benefiting from that research. Now, having said that, to be brief, research is both a consumption aspect, a thing for enjoyment, satisfaction, and it is also an investment. Investment in the personal life, professional life of the researcher, in the social life, and also in the national life at the international level. Because of these values which are attached to researches, the resource mobilization for research and quality research becomes very important. Because good quality research takes more money, more resources, more time. And good researchers, they have limited time, so they are paid for using their time. You have your time which you devote to teaching, and you have to carve out some time for researches and some compensation. The funding agencies, they make some compensation for that time that you take out of your schedule for devoting to the research. And that is why now is the time perhaps we should go to the resource mobilization structure for good quality researches which are conducted not only in India, at the world level. How researches are being funded in India and in other countries of the world. The first thing that we shall be taking up is international resource mobilization for good quality research. International resource mobilization. There are 4 types of organizations, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the international level, let us be very specific so that we don't stray away from the main topic. 4 types of organizations or institutions which are helping in a big way, providing resources for good quality research across the globe, for higher education along with good quality research across the globe. And the dependence of countries on these 4 differs from country to country. Many of these countries are more dependent on resources, some are dependent on one. Let me give the names of these, then it will become more clear how the countries are dependent on these resources for their research funding. Number is world organizations. World organizations, world bodies. For example, World Bank is an international organization. World Bank. Then there is International Monetary Fund. Then there is regional organization like Asian Development Bank. Of course, there are international UN organizations like World Health Organization, like Food and Agriculture Organization, like UNESCO, such bodies which are at the international level. And now also there is a research division in the WTO, World Trade Organization, with their headquarters in Geneva. They have also a research wing in World Trade Organization. So these are the international bodies which have in their program of action, they have also one program of funding researches across the globe. And that is why many of us say that, and many of the organizations, they are funding specific projects in different countries of the world. And we say we are working with a World Bank project. For instance, many researches which are related with sanitation and poverty, researches which are related with primary education, this Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, education for all, the foreign organizations have been funding in a big way to fund researches on that. And similarly, many health projects which are carried on, the evaluation of this campaigns of vaccinations and how vaccinations are affecting the life of the children and the recipients of those vaccines. For instance, a smallpox vaccination or measles vaccination. So these world organizations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, World Health Organization, the Food and Agriculture Food, FAO, these are the organizations which are funding researches in many of the research organizations, many of the universities, many of the IITs, many of the IIMs. One important thing is that these researches often they are sponsored by the organizations themselves, and sometimes they are also on demand of the researchers. If you are an established researcher in your own right, then you apply to the World Bank office in your country. Our World Bank office is in Lodi State Area Institution in New Delhi. Then you apply to the local office of the World Bank, and they will scrutinize, may give you a seed grant, and then you can come out with a bigger proposal and submit to the World Bank. And remember, every organization has certain areas of priority which they will love to finance. It's not that every research often the simple reply will come, sorry, it's a good proposal, but this is not in our priority list at the moment of funding. So we have to find out what are the priority areas of funding of these world bodies, and then if the proposals are submitted, then they will be very happy to fund those projects at the national level and sometimes in the two-country level if you want to have a comparative study, say between India and Bangladesh, or India, Pakistan, or with any other country. So good quality researchers at the world level, and many of the countries, not only developing countries like India, all countries of the world, they are depending upon these world organizations like World Bank, like IBRD, like Asian Development Bank, like WTO, and such organizations. You can name any international body, they have a research wing, and they love to. There are two types of help which is coming out for good quality researchers. One is in the form of money, which is very important. The other is in the form of technical advice and academic advice also. If you send a proposal and they have a team, then they will be happy to give you advice and to give you methodology of what methodology they adopt if they have certain study for certain country and you wish to have to launch a similar study in your country, then they will be happy to share their methodology with you. So that help is coming in that way also in the form of advisory or technical assistance by those countries and by those research organizations. The second is foreign governments. Foreign governments, like the government of UK, very important for India. In UK, there is a department, there is a ministry, which in India we have department ministries, and in England they have departments, and there we have ministers, they have secretary of that department. DFID, Department for International Development. That DFID is entirely a department which looks after developmental, educational and research activities in Commonwealth countries. Exclusive department of the British government, Department for International Development, and this British Council in every country, in Commonwealth countries. We are an important Commonwealth country. The British have been ruling over India for about 2 centuries. So DFID funded projects are in abundance. I also had the opportunity to work under a DFID funded project. We got very good funding from DFID, and that research, 2 researchers I was associated with. One was in 4 countries, and the headquarter of that was based in Cambridge. So we were from, two of us were from India, 2 from Pakistan, 2 from Kenya, and 2 researchers from Ghana. So these 4 countries were taken up. And the topic was labor market outcome of higher education. That was the theme, labor market outcome of higher education. As you were mentioning, and you were also mentioning why it is that we are producing students and they are not getting opening in the labor market, they are not getting opening in the job market. The another research which we carried out was about financing, modes of financing of higher education in India. And political economy of education in India, how, and that has been published as a book. Oxford University Press ने इसको publish किया 2003 में. आप हमारे नाम के साथ में देख पाएंगे इसको. Gita Kington, my co-author from England, and me, we completed that project and it came out. Oxford University Press ने publish किया political economy of education in India. The theme of that is how last में क्या आता है, how will you describe your research in 1 sentence? ये जो funding agencies हैं, they are very demanding, and every time they are asking what you are going to do. The last thing which they say, how will you describe your research in 1 sentence? Then we did write that we are going to research how politics has impinged on the sector of education and how it has impinged on making the policy in developing countries of the world. So DFID, for instance, is a very a great organization for countries like India, and if you go to the website of DFID, Department for International Development, DFID funded projects for research, British Council scholarships, British Council funding for research, Commonwealth Fellowship for research, very important, and many other government, Japanese government, you have it, congratulations. Which area did you research? Chemistry, very good. Very good. German government fellowship, French government fellowship, Japanese government fellowship. UGC has several announcements of fellowships and research related funding which are sponsored by different governments. Sorry?
He also got Commonwealth Scholarship for pursuing PhD.
Ah,
Okay.
I did my PhD in the Commonwealth.
very good, very good. And you can further contact them for further research in your area.
Yeah. After that, I
They-
visited twice
they-
under the Royal Society with
Very good. They will be very happy to keep in touch with you and to give you more research opportunities. They will be very happy. So they are doing this with all Commonwealth countries, and this is a very big source. Similarly, governments of different countries. And whenever our ministers, our Prime Minister or our Education Minister, MHRD Minister, they are visiting foreign countries, then often there is a MOU. That MOU is in different areas, industry, transport, communication, but often it is also in education and cultural exchange program. So that education and cultural exchange program gives an opportunity at the international level to have collaboration in research, to have funding in research of those governments, of those countries. And then the third is what we say non-government organization at the international level, NGOs. International NGOs.
Like Ford Foundation.
Like exactly, very good, yes, very good. International trust funds, societies, foundations.
Welcome Trust.
Welcome Trust.
Mellon Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Rhodes Scholarship, very famous, British government, Rhodes Scholarships. कितना बड़ा आदमी था देखिए, वो सेसिल रोड्स, वो पूरा रोडेशिया को बसाया, सेलिसबरी कहलाता था वो, now it is Zimbabwe, जो रोडेशिया कहलाता था in the atlas of 1960s, you find a country like Rhodesia, and now it is Zimbabwe. Then you find a country like Salisbury, now it is Harare.
But now he's also being labeled as a racist.
So, Rhodes' contribution to higher education in Oxford में पूरा बड़ा building है, Rhodes House, Oxford University में, and many of the scholars they are Rhodes Fellowship scholars, and they are across the globe, Rhodes Fellowship. Similarly, the foundations which are at the world level, they are funding British foundations or the American foundations in many other countries. So they are funding researches, and they are funding researches in different areas, in science and technology, in social sciences, humanities. Many of the international non-government organizations are also funding researches in new areas which are coming up, like gender studies, like child labor, like environmental studies. So new areas which are coming up, for interdisciplinary new areas which are coming up, which we can say non-traditional areas or modern areas of research where attention is going on. So these non-government organizations, NGOs, foundations, and they are helping also researchers of foreign students studying in any big university. For instance, any of our students, if they join or get admission in any British university or American university, then these foundations also come to provide funding for their research. If our student goes and joins in a PhD program or research program, then they get, and many of these organizations, they are helping that way in funding research. International non-government organizations. The fourth is multinational companies. Big multinational companies, Samsung, Mitsui, Mitsubishi, Akai, IBM, yes, all these. Now the purpose of why these big companies, India also, Tata ka naam lijiye, Birla ka naam lijiye, many of the institutions, they have been established by the houses of Tata, by Birla. BIT जैसे है बहुत ही मशहूर है, टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ IC Bangalore, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. This one of the institutions where this type of program for training of the academicians, leadership program. This is also one of such institutions. जैसे you are joining us in Aligarh, so Tata Institute of Social Science, NIPA in New Delhi, also one of the institutions where. So many of the big business houses, they also embarked upon and they came into finance researches in higher education, in scientific areas, in social areas. Tata Institute of Social Sciences is very famous. It's doing big work in research, quality research in that area in our country. Similarly, many of the big companies like Japanese or French or German companies or American or British companies, they are funding researches for two reasons. One, that the researches, outcomes of the researches will benefit their own innovation and their own benefit, technical benefit. And the second is that it will also earn goodwill for them. That this institution or this company is not only their